Hey guys, True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Scott. Just trying to make a real quick video today because I've seen the discussion on some of the forums about 200Ts, accelerator pumps, these kind of things. Not exactly the video that I'm doing. There was a little bit of discussion about 200T carbs. Now, I've built a few 200Ts at this point. Under 10, but I'm close. And in that, I'm finding that the Farmertec carb is working in a lot of them, but not all of them. And a lot of times, I'll just, grab the OEM carb. And I have this in a saw that I'm running right now. And it runs absolutely great. I wish I knew if it was a Walbro or a Zama. I swear it was a Walbro. And I'll probably wind up pulling it out of there because I'm working on this 200T build. I never even looked at any of those paper stuff in here. Huh. Who knew? Anyhow, I was working on this guy here for another tree guy. And I was having problems with the handle. Actually was giving me a fit with this trigger. And one of the things I'm going to tell you is these handles have, I'll call them throttle rods, linkage rods inside of them. And there's about 4 of them. If any of them are a little bit off, it can cause you a problem. Specifically this one, the trigger would stick. And it was real odd because if you held the back of it tight and hit the trigger, it would, and the front was open, you would think, okay, something with that. As soon as you squeeze the front like you had all the bolts in to hold it, that trigger would stick and would not come out. Anyhow, it turns out it was one of those linkage rods. For what it's worth, if anybody's doing these and has some problems. Oh, the other thing I'll tell you, and I do this, I've seen a lot of problems with this wire here, the kill switch wire. And what I wind up doing is I wind up dropping a bead of solder on both ends of it just to make sure that that crimp fit stays put. So I solder them. It's just a little extra thing to do on some of these saws just because I know so many guys have a problem with that. Anyhow, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to zoom you in closer. I'm just going to go a 2-second deal on carbs. And I'm going to show you. I have 2 kits that I bought within, I don't know, weeks of each other, to be honest with you. And I can't recall where I even got these kits. One of the dealers. Anyhow, 2 different kits. If you look, and I start looking at the diaphragms, this is the carb. This is the C10. Wait a minute. Which one was it? Which one's which? Okay, the 3. That one goes with that. That one goes with that. Anyhow, what I was going to tell you is, right off the bat, I can't remember this. There's a difference between these diaphragms or membranes. Now, one of these is better for ethanol gas, or maybe it's worse for ethanol gas. I can't remember what the difference is between this meshy looking one and the plasticky looking one. I just can't remember. If somebody can remind me why you would choose one of these diaphragms over the other one, it's just not in my head. Anyhow, what I'm going to tell you is this carb did not work. Tried it on a saw, wound up going with an OEM carb on it just because that saw had a few other OEM parts anyway, and some guys request OEM parts and I give them what they want. Don't think it's always necessary, but customer's always right. But what I wanted to show you with these, and let's see where I get to it. Now we're looking at them the same. You can see some differences on the back of this carb. And the one that's not working, I've actually seen other people post that right here, this hole that's not on the other carb has to do with the accelerator pump. Now, I've seen that little Welsh plug on the front of the Zama carbs that you can remove and JB weld. Don't have a Zama carb to try it with, and I wish I did have some of those old Zama carbs laying around, and maybe I'll grab a couple if I can and try them out, because it's a lot cheaper than buying these OEM Walbros from the Stihl dealer. Anyhow, there's a bunch of little differences on these 2 carbs. This one's already failed on me. This one I haven't tried yet, and I'm wondering if this is the model that has been working for me. And I can't tell you much. It's labeled C10. I'm going to have to make another video whether it works. But there's some differences with the needles, differences with the diaphragms, differences with a bunch of things. This hole goes all the way through, and I can't see exactly how that goes. This one on this carb is plugged. I showed you that other thing, which we think is the accelerator pump on these. I don't know. So I'm going to play with these a little bit more and just see if I can get them both running, one of them running, neither of them running. The reason I had them all apart is because I threw them through the ultrasonic, because I was hoping to get this one that didn't work. Maybe if I run it through the ultrasonic, it's going to work. One of the funny things is, when I took this apart, to my eye, it looked clean inside. This other carb, that I don't know if it works yet either, took this apart, and I banged it in my hand real quick, and I had a whole bunch of shavings in my hand from it. Not a whole bunch. I had shavings in my hand, metal shavings. So they went into the ultrasonic, but I just thought it was funny. So I guess I'll do a follow-up video on if I can get either one of those carbs to work, or one of the problems. I'm going to put you guys back on the tripod. Hold on a second. Okay, guys. One of the problems that I have is I'd like to spend hours and hours diagnosing different carbs, but when I'm doing builds and I have guys waiting for saws and they earn a living with the saws, a lot of times it's easier for me to swap in an OEM part that I know works. I do it very often on 44 builds. I swap in OEM carbs unless I can get very specific aftermarket carbs that I know always work. Other than that, the no-name ones are shot in the dark, and depending on who the saw is going to, I don't like to take that risk very often. You know, if somebody's looking for a little bit of a cheaper saw sometimes and they don't want to spend a little bit of extra money for an OEM carb, I'll do it. But it also eats up my time trying to figure out which carbs are going to be good if it's not very specific ones. OEM ones, always good. Very specific aftermarket carbs that I know are good, I'll go with. Anything else, I don't want to build it. Anyhow, guys, that was just my little 200T debacle. I have things going on with my router sled that I'm redoing the whole carriage on that. So I have a bunch of different projects that I'm kind of juggling between while I have a little bit of nice weather. So don't want to be inside doing this. I kind of want to get out and do some other stuff, but I figured I'd make a quick video. Boring, whatever. Take it for what it's worth. Anyhow, guys, True Rich Scott, Bulletproof Saws. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.